Hey everybody, Hoosier Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 21 of season 4 of Arrow called Monument Point. And wow, this is a pretty crazy episode. So let's just kind of get right into things. Let's just kind of get the flashback out of the way first. So um, writers all jumped up on evil magic juice, trashing the island. Just soaking up damage like he's some kind of overpowered video game character. And I like when Oliver and Tatiana, or Tiana, I guess, or whatever, I keep wanting to call her Tatiana just because that's a common Russian name. But anyway, they meet those other two people from the island, and Oliver's just like, okay, here, go to this plane, you know, and use it to get off the island. Oliver, do either of those guys know how to fly a plane? Just saying. I mean, if you send somebody to a plane and they don't know how to fly it, they're not getting out of there. And then, of course, they grab the idol, and then sort of suddenly Tatiana kind of gets the crazy glowy eyes. Now, okay, this isn't a surprise. We've sort of seen that this was coming, literally. And as I said before, I'm pretty sure she's not making it off that island alive, simply because she had made Oliver promise that if she didn't make it, he would go to Russia and tell her parents what had happened to her. And we know that Oliver at some point ends up in Russia, becomes a captain in the Bratva, gets learns to speak Russian. I mean, that's been established. He is fluent in Russian from like episode 1. That was established. So Oliver running around Russia in season 5, that promises to be pretty cool. So let's just kind of go and talk about what's going on in the present day. Uh, I really did like that scene between Oliver and Diggle, where Oliver is trying to kind of comfort Diggle about the whole situation. Diggle comes clean that he lied to Lila, and Oliver's like, "Oh, dude, you're making such a big mistake." And Dig kind of tries to say like, "Dude, who are you to talk about it?" And Oliver points out like, "Look, from my experience, I'm in a better position than anybody to tell you that keeping secrets from the woman you love is going to blow up in your face horribly." And that's a great point. I love Oliver's point here. It's sort of like, I mean, if some tweaker tells you that doing drugs is a bad idea, yeah, the tweaker's right. And who better to tell you that drugs are going to mess you up than a junkie, right? So yeah. Other than that, though, I don't really see anything particularly huge going on with anything. Ugh, I don't really have anything particular to say about Diggle. Except that this episode kind of does, if you pay attention, clarify something I've kind of been wondering about for a while: is what kind of bullets does Diggle have in that gun of his? Now, Team Arrow has a very firm no killing policy in place, so I always kind of figured they were like mercy bullets or tranks of some kind. But we see that he shoots Murmur in the neck, and Murmur just kind of like and kind of looks at it during that fight at the cabin. So it's probably some kind of a trank. Okay, I mean that would make sense. I was just kind of wondering. Speaking of Murmur, we also see that not only him but Brick from season 3, last season's greatest hits, are now working for Damien Dark. Brick not too happy about being demoted to henchman, but Damien Dark does sort of make the great point. Is like, okay, you might not like having to play second fiddle, but I imagine you'd like dying in nuclear fire a lot less. And of course, Vinnie Jones is very enjoyable as the character, and it was very nice to see him back. When I'd seen the preview for last week's episode, I'm like, wait a minute, where do I know this character from? And then it's like, oh wait, it's Brick. So that's cool. Let me see, what else do we have to talk about? Quentin and Donna. Now, that was a really nice scene. Donna is a very emotional person. She's somebody who's really been hurt by people in her life, like Noah. And it's understandable why, after all of that, she would have a very poor tolerance for lies. On the other hand, it's a question of, well, who in the world is Quentin's lie going to really hurt? And, there's the whole thing of, he still can do an awful lot of good as a police officer. On the other hand, it's the question of idealism versus pragmatism, I suppose. Donna is the person who's trying to make the idealistic choice, that you shouldn't lie under any circumstances, even if it's a harmless lie. She even says there are no harmless lies. And Quentin, as I said, he makes the case. It's like, look, being a cop is all I ever wanted. Laurel's gone. Who is this going to hurt? But I like how Donna. I mean, Donna's not a subtle person, but in her conversation with Quentin, she does make it very clear without saying this. Like, look, if you decide to lie about this, then I'm just going to have to say that this is over between us. And Quentin gets it. He doesn't have to do anything to acknowledge it, but he gets it. And the way he presents it, where he goes out and just flat out tells the truth in the affidavit, basically says to Donna, it's like, you know what? As much as I care about my career, I care about you more. And that that shows a real commitment that he is willing to sacrifice this if it means being able to stay with Donna and having her continue to be able to respect him. Now, Quentin, of course, is best as a police officer, but he's a very resourceful guy. I'm sure they can find something cool to do with him next season, assuming he survives, um, if he ends up not being able to be a police officer. Uh, I kind of think that that's him getting his badge back would be pushing credibility just a little too much because man, Quentin has broken the law so very many times. I mean, he did get busted back down to patrolman not too awful long ago, so I guess we'll see. Now, Felicity's relationship with her dad was pretty cool this episode. And I really did like how they did a much better job of fleshing Noah out as a character this episode. I mean, that he cares about Felicity is very clear. And I even like how he has that moment where he says, like, where she's kind of complaining about, like, the last time we talked, you stole from my company. He goes, yeah, I don't even know why I did that. Habit, I guess. And, that sort of might seem like a cheap dismissal of what happened last episode. But have you ever stopped to think about just how much of what we do is really out of habit? I mean, for example, me personally, I've been trying to cut out drinking soda. Now, it's not something I drink very often, but just more and more lately, I've been thinking about like all the bad and negative sides of soda, and basically trying to make it so it's something I only have like maybe once or twice a week as a little treat. And yet, if I'm kind of having a bad day, or if I just happen to be in the supermarket and it's just like, you know, it, admittedly, I kind of have gone to the point where I've stopped buying the name brand stuff because, a liter of soda for 79 cents that tastes basically exactly the same as Coke or Pepsi, it's kind of a no-brainer. And when I just sort of say, yeah, F it, I'm going to get some soda. Just, I mean, that's just a habit. The same as, any other thing that we do, like not exercising or eating too much greasy food, all bad habits I personally have, in full honesty. And we even kind of in our mind say, I really shouldn't do this, but we come up with some excuse or something like that. Again, it's all just habit. So I kind of buy into that. Noah was being honest there, and he does make the fair points. Like, look, I'm not a great guy, but I don't want the world to be blown up in a nuclear fireball because my daughter will go along with it. And as much as she's resisting, you do see that Felicity is kind of bonding with her dad a little bit, and despite what she said earlier, seeing that the two of them are a lot more alike than she would probably really like to admit. And I like how Team Arrow, I mean, it's put very nicely by Diggle. It's like, we don't want to trust your father, but we have to trust your father. And, I even really like that conversation that he had with Oliver, about a dual life. And Oliver even kind of says, yeah, it doesn't work. So I kind of have to wonder if, Noah perhaps making some sort of genuine sacrifice might be in the cards in the future. Because, I mean, what a position that would kind of put Felicity in. She spent so much of her time hating her dad, and then at the end of it all, having him do something that she can unquestionably only view as an act of love. That would really put quite the kind of the monkey wrench in her gears. But we'll have to wait and see. Let's see. Nothing really particular to say about Damien Dark, except I like how he got in that subtle Jaws reference at the end. You're going to need some bigger arrows. That was a good one. Points to Damien Dark for that one. The whole Thea thing, always nice to see her and Malcolm Merlin bouncing off each other. And I like how she says this, like, man, I think I've run out of ways to say that you're crazy. And um, now the whole thing with her and Alex. Oh, I did love that bit where she's like, they're going to try and stop anarchy, and Malcolm goes like, yeah, somehow I think giving you a weapon would be a really bad idea. Oh man, God bless John Barrowman. That man is such a gift to this show. I love him so much. Okay, don't really care about Alex as a character. I mean, he was kind of marginally interesting when the political stuff was going on, but now it's just sort of like a male version of those really weak female love interests that always tend to drag down so many other stories. And then they kill him off, and it's just like, I mean, this is supposed to really suck for upset Thea, but I don't really care. Um, the only thing that really does is kind of really more firmly cement anarchy as sort of a personal nemesis for Thea, who now knows her secret identity. And I'm pretty sure, being a smart guy, can extrapolate who Green Arrow is out of that, which of course ups his danger factor the next time we see him. Now, it looks like Thea just knocks him out this episode. Uh, Kind of questionable why Hive would keep him alive, but we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I would not be the least bit surprised if Anarchy pops up again next season as kind of the first addition to Thea's personal rogues gallery, the same sort of way that Brother Eye and Bug-Eyed Bandit and probably possibly Calculator are kind of part of Felicity's personal rogues gallery. And I don't know if I remember mentioned this the last time around when we were talking about Anarchy, but he fights with a three section staff, and that is my absolute favorite martial arts weapon. I mean, it's not the most practical thing in the world, but it looks majorly badass, and I just love the three section staff. Speaking of impractical, one of the great things about Arrow is the fight sequences. They're amazingly well choreographed. But I've noticed a lot this season that people tend to do these crazy, like, flip kicks a lot. And again, they visually look really cool. But, okay, let me put it this way. I'm not going to claim to be any kind of martial arts expert. I mean, my training and that sort of thing consists of basically a little bit of really basic Iaido training. But even I know that in a real fight, you don't do crap like that. In real fights, you don't do the really flashy nonsense like that because there's no point, and it's pretty easy to mess up. I mean, there's this famous story about Bruce Lee where he was doing a martial arts lesson, and as somebody said, well, okay, we're doing this here at a dojo or whatever you call it in Chinese, and where we abide by certain rules and all of this other stuff. And the guy said, basically, Bruce Lee. Okay, let me take a step back. Bruce Lee had demonstrated, like, okay, if somebody attacks you like this, do this. And the guy had said to him, okay, so we're in the martial arts studio, and we're abiding by rules here. If somebody came at you and like grabbed you that way in a street fight, what would you do? Would you do something different? And Bruce Lee kind of stopped and thought about for a moment and said, well, yeah, if that was happening out in a street fight, I'd just bite you. So, yeah, I always liked that story. Anywho, let's see, what else, what else, what else? Oh yeah, Russia nuked the United States in this episode. Um, I kind of like the way they handle this, so that like all the countries out there that have nuclear weapons, which apparently include Markovia and Kolto Maltese, which make no damn sense at all, but okay. They're supposed to be sort of like third world backwaters, but okay, let's just roll with that. All of those countries know, like, oh crap, we've been hacked, which, I mean, nuclear bases are deliberately kind of cut off from the world to prevent people from hacking and launching nuclear missiles, but TB. But I mean, this way everybody knows, oh crap, it's not us that's doing this. We're not trying to actually start a nuclear war here, which sort of explains, that and the fact that temporary hacking solution is also preventing anybody else from firing off missiles, basically is the reason why this town getting blown off the map doesn't result in a full-on nuclear war. And I honestly thought they were going to successfully prevent this, but the idea of them genuinely blowing a town off the map and then Damien Dark getting empowered by that's pretty cool. I mean, not for the people that live there, but in terms of storytelling. Now, the town that they were trying to destroy, Monument Point, is from the comics. In fact, it was written. The story about it was written by Mark Guggenheim, one of the main guys behind Arrow. And in the story, that city gets blown to hell. I don't think it was a nuclear bomb, um, but yeah, it got trashed pretty bad. Here, instead, basically, they successfully nuked the suburbs. So this would sort of be like, instead of blowing up New York City, you blew up Westchester or something like that. Let me try to think of another good example. Oh, yeah, if you sort of were trying to blow up, I guess, yeah, if you were trying to like destroy Chicago and instead you nuked like Zion, Illinois, or something, or Aurora. Sorry, I live in Illinois, so. Okay, but I think you guys kind of get the idea. So they basically kind of blew up the suburbs of this town, which, if the brief glimpses of the map that we saw are any indication, is apparently really close to Washington D.C. It looked like it was somewhere in Maryland. Yeah, that's still pretty intense. I mean, if kind of the Arrowverse follows real-world history, this would mean this is the world's first instance of successful nuclear terrorism. I mean, look at how 9/11 changed the world. You actually succeed in blowing a town off the map with a nuclear bomb. Ooh, that's not gonna be good. Not at all. But one way or the other, it definitely does up the ante for the last two episodes of this season, and just kind of really feeds into how in the world are they going to take down Damien Dark. I have no idea, but I certainly can't wait to see. So, with that said, guys, I'm going to call it here. As always, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. And also, please join me on Tumblr at Jedi Reviewer. Till next time, take care and have a good one.